Hi, Keven Casey here for the ADSN Pro Football Report. A busy week for the Carolina Panthers as they face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for first place in the NFC South. The winner is in the driver's seat to win the division as the teams move towards the playoff with 2 games to play. Carolina at Tampa Bay this weekend and then at the New Orleans Saints to close out the season. So it's a playoff game now. And for me, the biggest news this week is defensive tackle Derek Brown. A top pick a couple of years ago, a very good player, very well received in the locker room. I've been in the locker room many times. Kevin Tolbert and I, our ADSN staff, a cast of thousands, we're in the locker room and at practice all the time. So Derek Brown said this week the locker room is 100% behind Steve Wilks being not just the interim head coach, but made the full-time head coach with a multi-year contract and paid accordingly. So that to me is the biggest news this week. Also, the Carolina Panthers going back to the future with Josh Norman signing. That's due to Jaycee Horn's injury. And we're going to get to Josh Norman in a couple of minutes. But Jaycee Horn, broken wrist in the Detroit game. I saw him in the locker room. He was there during a media availability. I saw him in a sling. And, you know, I know his dad, Joe Horn, good friend of mine. I talked to him on the side, and his arm was in the sling, and the media was there. I'm not exposing any secrets, but the team announced that he will be reevaluated in 10 to 12 days, not being put on IR. He could be knowing who his dad is and thinking Jaycee Horn, if he's available to play, if they make the playoffs, he'll be in the lineup. Josh Norman was signed as a backup, a good veteran leader to have in the locker room. Remember the old Thieves Alley of all the defensive backs back in Carolina when Josh Norman was there in 2015 when he was in the Pro Bowl. He was all-pro at corner with, by the way, DB coach Steve Wilks. So lots of stuff going on. And speaking of Steve Wilks, our ADSN crew was there, and he talked to us.
You really have to go back and look at, a lot of the previous games that they played in regards to their personnel, their defensive scheme. Some things you take from that game, some things you don't, because teams are going to attack you based off your defensive front, and particularly in the run game. Passing game is a little different. So we definitely went back and watched our game because I know they did as well. That's what we do to make sure that we correct the things that we need to correct in regards to that. So our approach in with the coaches has been great, in my opinion. I feel like we're coming up with a great game plan on both sides of the ball as well as in special teams.
So far, so good for quarterback Sam Darnold. He has been listening to head coach Steve Wilks, or interim head coach Steve Wilks. He has been listening to him and says no turnovers. He'd rather punt and take a loss and punt, live another day. He just says he does not want any fumbles or turnovers. And so far, Sam Darnold has been listening and playing accordingly.
For us as an offense, it's like I said, it's running the football. I think when we're able to run the ball, we're a good offense, and it puts me in obviously good situations to be able to throw it and have time to throw on play action. And then when I'm dropping back, it's just making good decisions, understanding when we can push it down the field and when to be able to check the ball down. And I think just continue to be smart with that. That's the biggest goal for me.
And Josh Norman, we mentioned him, former Panther great. I think the stadium at Coastal Carolina is the Josh Norman football stadium because he is the most notable alum of Coastal Carolina. He played for my good friend David Bennett when he was the inaugural first ever head coach at Coastal Carolina. So Josh Norman, and he said he was working at a coffee shop in Atlanta right across the street from Cam Newton's cigar bar. So how's that? Josh Norman, J-No-24. He's back, and he's a Carolina Panther.
It's that mindset. It's that mantra of who we are, that keep pounding mentality. When I was here, got to get that in this building. And I'm sure the guys here got that. We just got to carry it on and come guys that like myself who was in that whole time when keep pounding was a thing, when it was really like the mantra that stuck with us when we went out there on that field. You can feel it from each other. And they have it. Just bring it out a little bit more, and we're looking forward to this week. That's the plan.
All right, great having J-No-24, Josh Norman coming back. I think that is a tremendous signing. Having him in the locker room is extremely valuable with basically 2 playoff games to go at Tampa Bay and at the Saints. Josh Norman, veteran of this division. He knows how to play. He's gone against Mike Evans of Tampa Bay many times. He may not be in elite football shape right now, but his brain is always in football shape. He can get out there. The reports say he had a great workout physically. So I know he could be like maybe a nickel or a dime in some. If Tampa goes to these 4 or 5 receiver sets, Josh Norman will get some playing time, and I think he'll be effective. Some injury notes before we get there. D'Onta Foreman has been, since the Christian McCaffrey trade, D'Onta Foreman, he and Chuba Hubbard, who caught up with our own Charles Arbuckle, chopping it up with Buck. We love Buck. But D'Onta Foreman named NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Tremendous game against Detroit. He had a tremendous game. He and Chuba Hubbard all just powered the Carolina rushing attack against the Lions. But you can't ignore the great vibe that the team is building with Coach Steve Wilks. Derek Brown says the locker room's behind Coach Wilks. You got to love it. And one other injury note for Tampa, Pro Bowl center Ryan Jensen has returned from the injured reserve. So lots of news and notes going on. This is a big game this weekend. I mean, every game is big from now on for every team in the NFC South. But Tampa is hosting the Carolina Panthers. But our ADSN crew, led by Kevin Tolbert, will be in Tampa. We'll have you updated all the way up into and including on the field at Raymond James Stadium right before game time. For ADSN 1, I'm Keven Casey. So long for now.